Hi, I'm Stephanie Willis. I'm a licensed esthetician and certified laser technician. I've also created aestheticprovider.com, an exclusive platform for aesthetic providers and for clients to help have a platform to find them. So today we are going to talk about expectations. We have Mother's Day coming up, and we just kind of want to roundtable this. A lot of us providers are moms, and there's a lot of feelings and emotions that come around this time of year. And I'm here with communication expert Tamara Blankenship. So I'll let
Hi,
you
everybody.
start, dive into it.
Excellent. I love it. So, yeah, we actually kind of started our conversation a little bit already. So, we decided to make sure we hopped you guys in and joined in on the discussion. I think a lot of times we don't realize, especially like you said, with like Mother's Day coming up or even birthdays or holiday season, we have a tone of expectation. And it's really, I think, important to understand, first of all, where that came from. Why do we even have this? Judgment or belief about something before it even happens. And how do we protect ourselves from having negative experiences or having too high of expectations that cause permanent damage in relationships? Because believe it or not, those expectations, or I like to call them even attachments to something happening or an outcome, causes resentment and it festers over time, especially if you're not really good at communicating those things and you just all of a sudden are like explosive at it. It can be really damaging. So it can be blindsiding and off-putting to the recipient. So those things are very, very intense. So I actually would love to start this off by asking you a question if you're okay with it.
Okay, sure.
Okay, great. So I think a lot of us don't stop and pause to define things. And I'm going to ask you, how do you define expectations?
For me, it's an idea that I have in my head, and I might think like on my birthday, for example, that I people should shoot off fireworks and I should wake up to a house full of balloons and flowers, and it should be like a holiday, and over the years, it's just not realistic. And I expect, a lot of times we are out of town, so we are doing something fun for my birthday since it is in the summer. But I think it's just this what we want it to be, probably would be my kind of guess of an expectation. But also people aren't mind readers. So if unless you're saying very specifically, this is what I want to do on Mother's Day, on my birthday, this is what I would like it to look like, people don't know. And you think, okay, well, you've known me long enough, we've been together long enough.
Oh, I
Why
love you're going where you're going. Yes.
don't you already know what I want to do? That being
Hmm.
said, each year will change. And each mood or each season will be different. I
Hmm.
may just want to be doing nothing, or I may be like, well, I thought I wanted to dress up and be taken to a fancy brunch for Mother's Day and sipping mimosas. So I think it's important to communicate within maybe that week or a few weeks if someone's wanting to travel. Hey, Mother's Day's next month. Should I plan a trip if you want to go on a trip, or do you want to plan, like, communicate what you want and what your expectation might be?
Yeah, that's a great way to start to kind of resolve some of those things. But a lot of times, I don't think people even realize they had an expectation. There's a judgment. Like, so the way I define expectation is a belief that has a little bit of an attachment or a judgment attached to it. So it is what we think should happen. And when people don't live up to that expectation, we have disappointment. So in extreme contrast or in louder spaces, now we have these things all day long, to be honest with you, like kids should come in and be kind and da 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 da, if you're a parent or, there's like, get your homework done expectations from a teacher's perspective. There's all kinds of expectations. A lot of the times, even in relationships, you can see expectations is my husband should know who I am and why, or my wife should understand that I need space when I come home from work, or I hear it all day long. There's a whole bunch of lists of different expectations. And I even actually recently was working with a client who had said that they were working with a counselor. It said that it was very good to let each other know each other's expectations. Trap. Do not do that. Very dangerous. I want to put like a big like caution sign over that kind of mentality Because the truth is, nobody's going to live up to your expectations. They're going to ebb and flow, like you were describing. They're also going to be very confusing because your interpretation, your perception of what should be expected is going to be different, even if you communicate the same thing. For example, if you say, hey, should I plan the trip or are you going to plan the trip? Well, first of all, what kind of trip do you want to do? Maybe I want to go to Las Vegas. Maybe you want to go to the Bahamas. Like all this detailed stuff, just because you said trip, and then it's too freeform. It's too formatted out where people can just do whatever they want with it. And then we set ourselves up for failure. It just is like, I want to be surprised. Do whatever. I'm so excited. Let's just plan a trip to get out of town. And all of a sudden they take you to like the middle of the desert and you're like, well, yeah, that's not what I was thinking when I was thinking trip. I want to go to Paris, like, or whatever, like it's just like effective communication and lack of assumptions. You don't want to make assumptions. So when I hear the word, expectations, I hear assumptiveness, like assuming that you're both on the same page, assuming that you both understand what each other's needs are. Very dangerous space. You can see it, right? It's really an intense contrast. So it's really important to recognize a lot of people have low expectations where they doom and gloom and expect negative things to happen. There's middle of the road expectations where it's more like just indifferent, which I think is more safe. And then there's very high expectations where it's you're going to do it this way. This is, this way or else kind of mentality. And unfortunately, the any of those ranges, depending on situation or circumstance, it really does change. And so if you really think about it, you're an evolving being and always moving through your belief systems and growing and changing those belief systems. So we'll reflect a little bit quickly on belief systems is belief systems are things you think over and over again to be so. It doesn't mean it's necessarily so for everyone. Very important to recognize the differentiator there. And this is where that whole discernment and boundaries come into play, which we will discuss a little bit later, more in detail about boundaries. But really understanding that if we put ourselves at risk of thinking we're all on the same page, like you were sharing earlier, it blows up in your face. If you have too high expectations, you're not giving human experience the permission to ebbs and flow as we need. And if they're doom and gloom expectations, everything's always negative and there's more of a pessimistic energy in you and everything is negative. You always almost attract darkness into your life. So it's really important to really recognize too high, too low is painful. Middle of the road's better, but you got to be careful too, because if you have no expectations, people don't follow through. So it's kind of like no matter which direction you go, it can be a little dangerous. Does that make sense or am I kind of rambling?
Yeah, no, it makes sense, but also still leaves the question of like, well, then how should I
Our
approach this
ex
holiday, birthday, you know? Then you end up saying, well, I hate holidays. I hate my birthday, this, that, and the other, because it never goes my way. And then that sucks every year to not look forward to something that could be a wonderful day and a wonderful experience. So I think that's what's also really
exactly.
hard is, okay, we got to like rewind, retrain our brain. And like right now, Rex is expecting me to play this ball with him all day long.
Demanding some real high expectations of you multitasking right now. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just
Yeah.
kind of like, how do we not have a dark cloud around those days? Let it ruin the day, let it waste the day being mad. And then, it leads to anger or sadness or a mixture of both, frustration. So like, how do we avoid
It
these like
goes, yeah.
ruining days?
I love that. So really it goes back to being a playful individual, being open to subjective opportunities, saying like, I'm really excited about the holiday that's coming. You share with everyone that you want to celebrate the day with, and you kind of brainstorm some ideas. You get creative, you collaborate a lot better to collaborate with someone than be disappointed, right? Because then they feel the shame and you're adding intensity in the relationship. So let's use Mother's Day since it's coming. You want to spend time with your kids for Mother's Day. You literally can say, hey, I know it's my day and all the crazy things, I appreciate you guys do show love to me all day long or all year long. So it's not like that this one day should mean more. but I definitely have a little bit of an idea of what I'd like to do to celebrate our relationship. So it's not just about mom, it's about being a mom. It's about the celebration of growing a family. It's about connection and community. So you really want to not make it so much about you, but about the experience of spending time together. Because ultimately, hopefully that's really what you're looking for, not necessarily to be the star. Like a lot of times we do want, like a birthday, you want to have like the fireworks go off and the balloons and all the things like you were talking about. That's usually when a surprise party comes out or an event where you go out to dinner, and those are more sacred kind of ceremonies, right? Or situations. But when you really think about like family, the kids are a part of that day. You didn't become a mom because of who you are. You became a mom because of what you did. And so isn't it more of a collaborative experience and celebrate those things together? So I do believe expectations, healthy expectations, are the ones you communicate. You invite them in to co-create them together. You don't sit there and go, okay, I need you to make sure these are my love languages. Make sure you fill these buckets of love. I am being sarcastic. I apologize because I do love the concept of love languages, but it's totally misused. And it is a valuable tool. All those buckets need to be filled by every aspect of your life. And it can't be one person's responsibility to fill those buckets. It's actually way too much burden on the relationship. But also to effectively communicate, saying, I really miss our quality of hug time or our ability to like support each other and communicate how, you do great things for me and I do great things for you. Maybe to even recognize just because your bucket's empty in that category doesn't mean your partner's empty in that category. So it's not universal. And it's really important to recognize some of those things. But getting back to our topic and really recognizing, when we have expectations, we're asking someone to be different, and that puts pressure on the person who's trying to gift you something. And that is an unfair thing to do. Does that make sense? Like I really want to drive that component home more than anything. Expectations is you projecting judgment or attachment to someone or something being a certain way. And when we do that, we create complete polarizing experience from what might happen to allowing what happens be a gift. And when we do that, we create intense pain for ourselves because we think we want this. It doesn't show up. So anything that didn't show up like it is the opposite of what we wanted. And that causes pain. Instead of being like, wow, I didn't see that coming. How cool. Gosh, we ended up at the movie theater and we talked about, after the movie theater, we had dinner or we went to the park and we threw the ball around, or that is kind of the evolution of things, and to allow things to develop by communication instead of just assumptive behavior. And that's the trap. So
Yeah.
does that make more
Yeah,
sense?
definitely. And one thing I want to ask too, so some of us, we're mothers, but then we have mothers. So, how to navigate
Shared
that.
holidays.
Yeah, it's like, well, this is my day, but then, I have a mother, and then, your husband has a mother, and it's like, okay, so now how do we like, does everyone hang together, or you go off and then I'm going to do my own? Like, sometimes it just makes for more stress.
A nightmare. It could be a nightmare. And it's only one day. It is a Hallmark holiday. In all essence, like if we really think about traditions and holidays, it is the ones that matter the most to you that should be carved out as sacred. Think of them as ceremonies and opportunities to provide depth of connection. Instead of making it all about the holiday, which is so heavy, it's more about like, I'm going to make sure that when I spend time with my mom, that she understands that I really value her and appreciate that time that she has given me over the last year. Because remember, it's year to year, right? So like, even just, I sometimes, this can sound really obnoxious. I know it does, but I love doing it. There are times throughout the year that I'll like document a little note inside my phone about things I'm grateful for my mother for, and I'll put it in the card at the end of the year. And just like, because when you're sitting down to write that Mother's Day card, the intensity of like trying to remember all the things you're grateful for just feel overwhelming to me. So I kind of have a tendency to just kind of track it a little bit here and there. And it's not a big list. It's not like 12 pages long or anything crazy, but it's just like little things that stood out for me in that moment of reflection about the relationships. I do a lot of meditating, so I have a tendency to to even do that in my meditation. Like, who am I going to pick that I'm grateful for today and send positive love out to? And so I will pick a person to focus that positive energy to. And that does deepen my connections, because now when I think of those people, I'm not thinking about all the things that they did to make me mad. I'm thinking about all the things they did to make my life, more flavorful or deep and contrasting and valuable. And so those things can actually become a spiritual practice as well, which is kind of a cool way to look at all your relationships. You just pick a person of the day and think about how you want to celebrate them for those 20 minutes of your meditation. If you do meditation, it's really kind of a fun thing to do.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
One more thing I want to say about that, and then we'll maybe do our second segment on boundaries. But sometimes we were talking about like the pressure of somebody feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do the wrong thing. They're going to be upset if I don't have like the
Yeah.
right power for them or whatever.
Mhm.
So they shut down and maybe they do nothing. And it's not because they don't feel grateful
It
for
happens more often than not, especially for men, because
yeah,
they're not as effective in communicating safely. They fear being
yeah,
women, and I'm going to put this in a big naughty category. Women have a tendency to get more fiery because we have access to our emotions, where for the most part, men have been taught to be more systematic and more process related, as far as just like emotions can't be expressed because I need to take care of this responsibility. They kind of have to shelf a lot of their emotions. And so when they finally have a chance to feel their emotions, it's foreign and scary. So they shut down. And that's truly a lot of survival behavior. Men are to be providers, women are more the nurturers of the relationship. Not always the case, because sometimes men are more feminine in energy and women are more masculine in the energy. So it does depend on the dynamic of your specific relationship. But recognizing the shutdown's not personal. Stop taking everything personal. It is literally an experience because your partner doesn't feel safe. And when you recognize you're feeling it, it's an opportunity to have a better conversation. It's not a conflict. Matter of fact, conflicts are all opportunities for deeper connection. So if you really, really take advantage of processing your emotions and why you're upset about it before you enter that conversation, the more effective you will be in that communication. So when people shut down, don't always assume it's they're being avoidant. It may be avoidance because they don't have the coping skills or the strategies to have the conversation. And by being loving and nurturing in that space, you gently open them up to having a deeper understanding of their reality versus your reality. Again, back into discernment always happens. So it's really a grace thing that we can gift our partners or people that we love in our lives, is an open space to have true healthy dialogue.
yeah. All about that communication. Always
It
kind of
really
circle
is.
right back to that.
Yeah, stop taking things personal. It's hard. Sometimes it just
Very
feels
hard.
so much to the jugular. Yeah, it can be really intense.
All
So
right. Well,
fun.
thank you everyone for listening. I hope that some of that kind of helped work around the mentality of these holidays, and maybe one piece of it will kind of help you to not feel as stressed or have a set type of expectation and make the day, not go as you hoped it would. So
Yeah.
hopefully that helped. If you want to get in touch with Tamara, it's www.tamarablankenship.com. You can book an appointment with her. If a lot of people around the holidays need the extra little someone to talk to, extra little guidance, and she's available to do that via Zoom or even a
Yeah.
phone call. It's really easy to get in touch with her and get an appointment.
Yeah, and just remember you have a free 20-minute, it usually ends up being 45 minutes, I'll be honest. But just an opportunity to discuss what's going on to help you feel resolved right away. I grant that just because I want to see if we work well together, and the opportunity for each of us to see if we communicate effectively, because I'm all about communication. I got to practice what I preach. So if I can support you, we would book another session. If not, then we just, we do the best we can for the 20 minutes or the 45 minutes that we are gifted, and provide some kind of insight to help you feel better. So just go ahead, either reach out even here in this message thread, and we'll just be, reach out and help you get a hold of information so that you can get a little extra support for Mother's Day.
Yes.
Or Father's Day, because it's coming up too. It
Or
doesn't, fathers have expectations too.
yeah. Oh boy. All right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you.